in government, which has won elections since democracy, and they are trying to find a way to undermine the ANC more than anything. That is my speculation. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Cebekulu.
My apology, Speaker. In fact, the question should be asked by Honorable Singh rather than myself.
The Honorable Singh.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, Mr. President. Mr. President, we do not have the name of the company here on this question paper, but one can guess who the company is. Now, Mr. President, there is a program that is called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And one of the questions they always ask, is this your final answer? So today I want to ask, Honorable President, is it your final answer that you have not received any payment from any specified company during this period? Because the Committee on Public Enterprises is seized with an inquiry at the moment, where amongst others we are inquiring into Transnet, Genel and Eskom. And one would hate that this individual is called and under oath says, yes, I did give so much to Mr. X or Mr. Y. So I'm asking, Mr. President, in fairness, is this your final answer? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Chairperson, I beg your pardon, Speaker, we might just want to ask if the President needs to call a friend.
No, Honorable Member, please take your seat. Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The answer is yes. This is the final answer.
Okay, honorable members, we now proceed to question number 21. Asked by the Honorable Groenewald of the FF Plus, the Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The process of recruiting the National Commissioner of the South African Police Service is proceeding very well. We are conducting internal processes that will culminate in making the appointment. I intend to appoint the National Commissioner as soon as this process is finalized. On the 24th October 2017, the Minister of Police released the crime statistics for the financial year 2016 to 2017. The statistics show an increase in certain crimes and a decrease in others. We commend the Minister of Police, the leadership, and all policemen and women, as well as ordinary members of the public, for their ongoing hard work in fighting crime. The responsibility of confronting the scourge of crime and violence were led by the police is also a responsibility shared by all South Africans. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Groenewald.
Achtbare Speaker, you can relax, Honorable President. For your sake, I'll try to speak English.
Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, I accept that the Honorable President does not know what really happens in South Africa when it comes to crime, because you are surrounded by a brigade of bodyguards. But, Honorable President, I want to specifically refer to farm murders. Are you aware of the cruelty of farm murders taking place in South Africa? Are you aware that criminals using electrical drills and drill holes in their victims' feet and in their legs? Are you aware of the fact that criminals use hot irons and they burn their victims on farm murders? Are you aware of the fact that the criminals use boiling water, pour it on their victims and down their throats? Are you aware, Honorable President, when it comes to farm murders, that they cut out the testicles of their victims, cook them and eat them? That is the inconvenient truth that is happening with farm murders. Crime is start getting out of control. And I want to ask you, Honorable President, this internal process you follow for a commissioner, in that process, will you appoint a commissioner who is experienced, competent, coming through the ranks of the police services? If that is a merit appointment to ensure that we fight crime in South Africa, or will it be a political appointment like we have experienced since
Your time has expired,
1999
Honourable
up
Member.
to now? I thank you.
The Honourable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Firstly, I think the Honorable Member went through military training, as I did. I've never been accompanied by a brigade. That's not true, it's an exaggeration. You can't have a brigade on a convoy. You know it. Why do you say wrong thing? There's no brigade. How do I trust that your question is even very genuine when you start by saying a wrong thing? You don't know crime because you are accompanied by a brigade. Not at all. It's not even a company. You know it. You don't have to come. I gave you the time.
Achtbare Speaker.
No,
Achtbare Speaker. No.
Honourable Groenewald.
Honorable Speaker, I have always behaved well in this House.
Yes.
The Honorable Speaker, the Honorable
Honourable
President, now
Groenewald.
it's a figure of speech.
Wait
He must answer my
wait
question.
for an answer, Honourable Groenewald.
Now let him give the answer.
Honourable President, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was just correcting the language of exaggeration, that we don't have to exaggerate. Just ask a question simply. Ever since we have been appointing the commissioners of police, we've been appointing the people that have the competence, that we did not just go for anyone. We apply our minds. Whatever happens in the process of work, it does not mean we just pick. That's why I'm talking about the process. Once again, we will appoint a commissioner of police who is competent, who will be equal to the task. That's what we'll do when we finish the process. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mr. President, one of the root causes of crime today in South Africa is as a result of the effects of apartheid on our people and the brutality under which our people were subjected to. Now, Mr. President, the commissioner that we have to appoint needs to understand the challenges that we face, including the socio-economic conditions, because it is our understanding it is not only a matter of the police, but all relevant people, stakeholders to come together. Would you ensure that whoever you appoint, Mr. President, is fully aware of the circumstances of the people on the ground, where they have come from, what is causing the root causes of the crime, together with taking into consideration the fact that the police themselves have a very difficult task, that when they want to apprehend and or shoot or kill these criminals, that we political parties will want to make a big
Your
noise.
time has
But
expired,
the criminals will
member.
do the same and nobody does that. So I want to know, Mr. President, will you appoint somebody who will take both sides and consider before the appointment that you make?
The Honorable, the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Definitely. Part of what we are doing in the process is to identify a policeman or woman who will understand the situation in the country. And many of them, they've got to answer those questions, whether they understand the responsibility given. And at the end, we take the one that satisfies us, that they understand even the causes of crime. So we will definitely do as we have suggested. We will employ a police leader who will understand the situation and know how to deal with crime. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Maimane.
Mr. Zuma, I think it's quite clear. None of us can, in fact, believe you. I don't, anyways. And you've managed to capture. Here's the point of concern. The crime stats, the very crime stats that were released last week, in fact, are chilling. The citizens who are sitting here, 52 citizens are being killed every single day in South Africa. Now, my problem is this, is that gang and drug-related murder is equally on the rise, and the victims are often innocent bystanders. In your Sona
Order, honorable members. The President will end up not hearing again what the honorable member is saying. Okay.
Now, what is clear, in your 2004 State of the Nation address, you promised to re-establish specialized gang and drug units after shutting them down in 2004. That was in 2016, you said that. So, Mr. Zuma, how can citizens enjoy freedom when they live with such high levels of crime? What I want to know is why have you not fulfilled your promise of reopening the
Your
drug
time
and
has expired,
gang-related
Honorable Maimane.
agencies like you promised? Why have you not opened them?
Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We are working on the plan to implement, among other things, what we promised. We have had a discussion, not just with the police minister, but with the cluster itself. We have said we cannot coexist with crime. We need strategies to deal with crime, which will include establishing special units to deal with special kind of crime, as I promised. The critical point about crime, South Africans are not born criminals. It is the social conditions that add a lot of pressure in terms of people to become crimes. And that's what we are dealing with. And that's what we are going to be dealing with in a plan that will be announced very soon by the cluster in terms of crime. So that is going to be done because we sympathize with people who are affected by crime. For an example, what has happened in the Western Cape, where there was almost an open battle among the gangsters. And the minister went there, and the minister even said we need the assistance of the military. And they're working on that, the two ministers, so that we can add more strength and effort to deal with crime. I have gone to a number of places in the Western Cape because of crime, including visiting areas where there were victims, as well as the police station, to say, what can we do? That is why the minister has, in fact, in one area, elevated the level of person in command. Well, that is part of the effort to fight crime. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Kubisa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable President, most of the people who have appeared before the Morana Commission in KwaZulu-Natal mentioned inter alia that the issue of corruption, greed, and also the issue of tenders is causing a lot of problems when it comes to crime in South Africa, and KwaZulu-Natal in particular. And especially, there's a lot of crime in Cleveland, for instance, in the hostels. Umbuzo uthi ke mhlonishwa mongameli, ngendlela okwenzeka ngayo njengoba abantu befa mhlambe nalapha ko Greytown bebulawa belele ko Loskop nalapha eKapa, ungabe lezi zinto mhlambe abazimentionile ku Morane Commission ziyingxenye yini yokuba khona kodlame ezweni lakithi nokuthi singaqeda kanjani? Ngiyabonga.
The Honorable the President.
Elungu elihloniphekile, ngingathi okubangela ukubulawa kwabantu eindaweni ezahlukahlukene kunezizathu ezahlukahlukene. Kulokho mhlawumbe ukushiwo abantu abavele bezobika ukuthi bacabanga ukuthi yini ebangela udlame, okunye kwakho kuyiqiniso. Akufani, zihlukene lezi zinto. Kukhona abafa ngenxa yokuthi mhlawumbe baxabene ngezinto ezithile, kukhona abafa ngenxa yezimpi zamatekisi, kukhona abafa ngoba abantu kukhona banje abalwa ngakho okuthile. So zonke lezo zinto vele ziyingxenye yezinto eziletha ukuthi kube khona udlame endaweni ezahlukahlukene. Uma ubheka lapho kuthiwa kubulawe khona abantu, futhi uthola ukuthi ngesinye isikhathi yigebengu, ngesinye isikhathi abanye babuyisela induku kulabo mhlamba babulala abangakubo, ubungayazi ingxabano ukuthi iqaleni. Yizo zonke ke lezo zinto esiziqashelwayo ababhekele umthetho ukuthi zenziwa kanjani, lapho kutholakala khona ukuthi ngempela kunomkhondo tholakala ukuthi lokhu kubangelwe yini, amaphoyisa ayalandela ezigabeni eziningi ayababamba abantu abaseyinkantolo. Kusho ukuthi kulwa nendaba yobugebengu iyaqhubeka, nezigebengu zikhona. Ingakho nje ngithi ababhekene nohlelo lokuthi balethe ukuqeda ubugebengu banamasu namaqhinga bazoqhamuka nawo budebuduze nje ukuzosho ukuthi siyilwisa kanjani lento na. Belisa konke lokho kubalile, bebheka ukuthi yini le eyinkinga eyenza ukuthi abantu babulala abanye abantu na. Ngiyabonga. Somlo.
We now come to question number 22, asked by the Honorable Abrahams of the ANC. The Honorable the President.
Honorable Speaker, government has since 1994 introduced programs aimed at eradicating extreme poverty and hunger. We have reduced the numbers of people experiencing the worst levels of income poverty significantly. Most of the achievements in reducing extreme levels of income poverty can be attributed to government's comprehensive social protection program. This program includes extensive income support programs such as social grants, access to free education, and primary health care for the poor and the working class, and the provision of free basic municipal services to impoverish members of society. Government provides social grants to 17 million people, which translates to 31% of the population. Our 10 million of the recipients are orphans and vulnerable children. We recently celebrated with some university graduates who had been recipients of the Child Support Grant. Over and above the social grants, government also provides support through the Social Relief of Distressed program to individuals and households faced with destitution under hardship and disasters such as fires and floods. This support includes cash, food parcels, or food vouchers and school uniforms that are provided to the distressed families for a minimum period of 3 and up to 6 months. On education, over 9 million children from impoverished households are exempted from paying school fees, and they also receive free meals at schools to ensure access to education regardless of the economic status of the parents. Students from poor households attending technical and vocational education colleges also study for free to promote access to education. Government also subsidizes early childhood development centers and supports close to 1 million children of the poor and the working class attending these centers. In addition, through the government's Household Food and Nutrition Security Program, more than 200 community nutrition and development centers provide over 6 million meals to more than 300,000 beneficiaries per annum. Indigent households with no source of income do not pay for water, electricity, refuse collection, and sanitation. Free basic services are provided to over 3.5 million households. Government also provides free health care to the poor by subsidizing their hospital bills. Depending on the individual's income and guided by the Uniform Patient Fee Schedule policy. Importantly, government also runs public employment and development programs such as the expanded Public Works Program and the Community Work Program, which provide regular work opportunities and training for thousands of people, especially women and the youth. As at the end of September 2017, the Community Work Program has provided over 230,000 work opportunities. Over 3 million work opportunities have also been created in phase 3 of the extended Public Works Program. Some innovative programs have also been introduced to support young people. The War on Leaks program run by the Department of Water and Sanitation is currently training 10,000 youth as artisans and plumbers, in particular to curb water leaks. Other programs target youth in rural areas to provide skills such as the National Rural Youth Service Corps program, which has helped thousands of youth. These programs alleviate poverty, but more must be done to ensure prosperity and a better life on a sustainable basis. The solution is to build an economy that is growing, which is inclusive, and which benefits all citizens. It should also be an economy that supports aspiring entrepreneurs and business owners to enable growth and job creation. Work is continuing to boost economic growth through the implementation of our 9-point plan on areas including manufacturing, agriculture, tourism, mining, telecommunications, and others. Ultimately, for us to totally lift the poor out of poverty, we have to ensure radical economic transformation. The black majority must participate in the economy as owners, managers, and controllers and benefit from the wealth of the country. They should not be workers only. Programs such as promoting black industrialists and supporting black small businesses are aimed at changing the patterns of ownership so that we can see a difference in the lives of our people. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Abrahams.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable President, for a very comprehensive reply. Thank you. Honorable President, in terms of the program
in 2012, as a policy from policy conference and adopted in the national conference as the policy, because the ANC that understands better the conditions of this country believes that it is only when we are able to balance the economic activities and benefits that we can address this huge problem of poverty and inequality, unemployment in this country. The radical socio-economic transformation, therefore, really looks at how do we re-engineer, reconfigure the economy so that everybody participates. One of the things we are doing very seriously is at the level of education. Because part of the poverty that we have today is because the system before 1994 undermines the education of the majority. That is why we say education is priority number one. Whilst we do everything, we need to find citizens who are equipped, who are skilled, who will be in a position to undertake the economic developments so that this country can expand the economic area of activity and therefore the participation. That policy of radical socio-economic transformation is aimed at that very specifically. That is correct, what you are saying. Thank you very much indeed.
The Honorable Van der Merwe.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, Honorable President. I think the fact of the matter is that under your leadership, our country is poorer and inequality is growing. And in fact, we are now confronted with reports that children as young as 8 are committing suicide because of the deep levels of poverty and despair at home. And I think this should give us all sleepless nights. And you should know that these vulnerable citizens rely on a social grant alone. And you should be aware that there's currently no deal between SASSA and SAPO to pay out our grants, which means another fiasco is looming. Now, I want to ask you, Honorable President, as the chairperson of the Interministerial Committee looking at this issue, what have you done in the past 7 months to avert another SASSA crisis? Can you outline the steps that you have taken, Honorable President? And would you take personal responsibility for once for this ongoing saga? Because it is you who keep rogue ministers in their positions. I thank you.
On a point of order.
Honorable Hadebe, what's the point of order?
With due respect, Honorable Speaker, that's the new question that was still reserved. Thank you.
Is the President ready to answer that question?
Yes.
I will allow Honorable President to proceed.
Yeah, just to help those who need information. I'm happy that the honorable member started at a real problem of poverty. You see, if we talk about poverty as if it just mushroomed now, we don't talk about the causes of this poverty, we are missing the point. We'll even fail to understand the efforts that government is making today. Poverty is a direct baby of apartheid, particularly to the majority. They were deprived of everything, and they grew up as a huge kind of size of big one of the blacks, without jobs, without education, because apartheid thought that they don't need education because they're not going to work at important places. All they needed to do was just to know how to communicate with the bus. That is where the problem comes from. Don't present the problem of poverty as a problem of this government. This government is solving that problem. The reason why we have got such a huge scheme to look after those who are extremely hungry is a direct product of the system of apartheid. That, if that is understood, you will then understand why we are taking all these measures, why we have SASSA, whatever you talk about, is to address the problems that were created by a system of apartheid. What has happened in the process of this, because of the problem that emerged within SASSA, we then established this committee. This committee has been meeting, discussing issues. I've been chairing it. Right now, I have talked with the Minister of Finance. They are finding a solution on one part of many things that are being resolved. The relationship between the post office and the department. And this is being addressed. The Minister of Finance is meeting both departments to discuss and solve that problem. Because we have to solve it, we have no alternative. Because it has to be solved. So I'm aware of it, I've chaired those meetings. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Maimane.
Mr. President, what is not a problem of apartheid is Minister Bathabile Dlamini. As Minister of Social Development, she's leading from one crisis to the next. And now there's a looming crisis that you've just described. Truth of the matter is that Minister Bathabile Dlamini is incompetent. She simply can't do the job of delivering grants to the people of South Africa. Now, what I want to understand, she's sidelined officials. It's clear that there's another crisis looming. What I want to know is why, Mr. President, while you are reshuffling every other month, why have you kept Minister Bathabile Dlamini in her job despite her incompetence when poor South Africans are there?
The Honorable, the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I don't know why the honorable member is saying all the problems we face are not the problems of apartheid. Why are you defending apartheid? You were a victim of apartheid, you. I don't know why you defend it. Absolutely, I don't understand. You defend apartheid.
I never said that. I never said that.
Order. Honorable Steenhuisen,
I've
please
just said,
take your seat.
Madam Speaker,
No, take your seat, Honorable Steenhuisen.
are you going to allow the President to twist the truth
Take your
in
seat,
this
Honorable
House?
Steenhuisen. Take your seat.
I know he's used to twisting the truth, but that's a step too
Honorable
far.
Steenhuisen, take your seat. Please proceed, Honorable President.
Madam Speaker, people should ask questions directly. They should not start wondering, because I'm going to follow their wondering when I answer questions. They must ask a question directly. Because the insinuation that ministers who are trying to solve the problem of apartheid, they are not a problem of apartheid. They're a problem of who? Who created the problem in this country? I'm answering that question. That's why I'm saying the honorable member who was also oppressed, how can he say apartheid did not do damage? The damage is done by us now. It can't be correct. You say Batabile is not a problem of apartheid. It's a problem of what? I'm answering you. You come with meandos, I answer with meandos. Easy. Ask the question, I will answer the question. Batabile is dealing, Minister Dlamini is dealing with the problem of solving the problem that emerged, and we have a committee that I've just described that has discussed the solution, and we are finding a solution. That is the matter that we are dealing with, and that is the answer to the question. Firstly, the judge or the court, the constitutional court, gave an order to that minister, did not give an order to any other person. That minister has to do that order. Now, if you remove her, who is going to implement that order? Who? She has to deliver on the order of the constitutional court. What will I say to the constitutional court that they say this minister must deliver and I shift this minister? What is that? She has to deliver on the order of court. That's why she's there to do so. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Reverend Mishwe. Order.
Thank you, Speaker. While the ACDP appreciates all government programs that the President spoke about, the fact still remains that according to Poverty Trends Report for 2006 to 2015, 30.4 million people are living in poverty. And this is an increase from 27.3 million people in 2011. This shows that government is clearly failing to effectively redress the issue of increasing or decreasing poverty levels in the country. The ACDP believes that South Africa has enough mineral wealth and human capital to alleviate this crisis. But corruption, especially at government level, and the looting of state resources has stolen money that should be used to help the poor. With the overwhelming evidence available that shows how government is failing the people of South Africa, especially the poorest of the poor, why does the President seem reluctant to take responsibility for government's failures and urgently address the systemic corruption that is robbing our people? And would the President consider calling early elections in the hope that it will usher in a new caring government that will have the best interests of the people of South Africa at heart and eradicate corruption at all levels? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Firstly, we have not denied the fact that the problem we are tackling is big, and it is an apartheid problem. And you know it, Honorable Member. We are solving it. We have always said that we have made progress, but we still have to do more. We say this every day. That is a recognition that the problem is big. It's not the failure, it's the size of the problem. That is what we are dealing with. And indeed, we have better policies to address this problem. And our policies are the most accurate policies. Now, if you say, don't you consider having early elections so that, but who is going to do better? I've listened to the policies of the parties. No party has policies better than the policies of the ANC. Not a single one. How are we going to tackle that? We are dealing with the issues of the government, of the country. And we have time, 5 years, given by the Constitution. What you ought to be doing, try to convince the people of this country to vote for you. Because we are not going to vote for you here, no matter how much you talk to us. We're not going to vote for you, because I don't even know what you are going to say if we gave you a chance today. I don't know. At least people know what the ANC will do. People can call the ANC to account on its policies. I don't know what other policy is better. So there is no need for elections. The ANC is addressing the issues of this country to change the quality of lives of our people for the better, and we will succeed. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, we now come to question number 23. We come to the question asked by the Honorable Carter of Cope. The Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The government is committed to fighting corruption in all its forms. Since 2009 to date, I have signed 84 proclamations authorizing the Special Investigating Unit to investigate maladministration and corruption in government and state institutions. The South African Police Service and the National Prosecuting Authority have stated on record that they are investigating the allegations of the so-called state capture. I have also stated before this Parliament that I will establish a commission of inquiry to investigate such allegations. I will do so as soon as my application to review and set aside the relevant public protector's remedial action is finalized. The matter was heard in court on the 24th, 25th October, and we are still waiting for the judgment. The authors of the two reports should provide their information to the above-mentioned law enforcement agencies and also to the Commission as soon as it is established. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Carter. Oh, I think there's a technical fault. No, you can proceed, Honorable Carter.
Thank you, Speaker. Mr. Zuma, it's November 2017, more than 18 months since you first learned from the public protector that there were serious allegations of what is now called state capture. And we've seen the unburdening panel report, we've seen the academics' betrayal of a promise, we've seen the Gupta leaks. More recently, we've seen the Jacques Pauw's book, The President's Keeper, which you have never attempted to challenge in a court to stop from being published. And by all accounts, as the executive manager of government, you have done nothing in respect of the revelations of corruption and capture. Now, I'm trying to make my question as simple as possible for you to understand it, Mr. President. Mr. Zuma, do you think, as the President of a Republic of South Africa, this country, that it would be in your best interest and in the best interest of a country that you appoint the independent commission to investigate the revelations of corruption and state capture as a matter of urgency? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have said in a number of occasions that I am ready to establish a commission of inquiry, judicial one. The problem that we have faced is that you had the public protector investigating and producing a report which is called capture report or state capture report or whatever you call it correctly. Once that report was given, I then said the remedial action of the public protector was unconstitutional, that I have to undertake. And I took the report for the review. So I've never said and did nothing. I took action to review the report. I could not push the dates of courts or other things. It's out of my responsibility. And that's why on the date that I mentioned recently, that matter was heard and we are waiting for the judgment. What in terms of the law, as I know in this country, that if the matter is in court, same matter, state capture report, I couldn't establish a commission of the same thing. You can't. Lawyers say it is a matter that is sub judice, right? Now, you want me to break the law. Whilst the matter is being handled in courts, I establish another parallel process. I wouldn't do so. And that is what has made me to wait until there is a judgment, advised by legal people. That's what we have to do. I wanted to do that earlier than anything else. And I'm ready after the judgment. I'm going to establish it immediately. There's no doubt about it. All these issues that people talk about, they are going to go to that commission. So we'll prove the liars and the truths. It is coming, my dear. Don't worry. It is coming. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Zoama.
Honorable Speaker, can you protect me?
You are well protected, Honorable
We are
Zoama.
only two in this National Assembly. Honorable Speaker, Honorable President, you are truly a disciple of deception. I'm convinced today that your presidency is equal to walk of shame. You know that your family has made Saxon Wealth their pilgrimage. Honorable President, I truly believe that you need a rehabilitation of conscience. Give us the real reason why you have put our country to auction. Why do you engineer our state-owned enterprises to profit your family and friends? I know, Honorable President, that your words lack honor and are always saturated with falsehoods. But when are you going to put
On a
the
point
love
of order.
of your country and its people first before self-enrichment?
There's a point of order. Honorable Khatebe, what's the point of order?
I'm rising on Rule 85. The member is casting aspersions on the character of the president.
Honorable Kawama, you know how to channel the issues that you are raising that are referred to as casting aspersions. You know the correct thing to do, and I wish you to desist
Yes.
and to proceed to channel those issues if you have them.
Honorable Speaker, our sitting president is even a suspect. I don't know what aspersion is he talking about.
Honorable Kawama,
But I have answered my...
Honorable Kawama, can you withdraw the statements you made before you go to this point where you are about to ask a question?
Okay, Honorable Speaker, I will withdraw that one. My question is, Honorable President, when are you going to put our country first before self-enrichment?
Honorable Kawama, if you are going to say a sitting president is guilty of self-enrichment, then you must please submit that allegation in the correct way. Honorable Kawama, if you are going to submit it, it's fine, go ahead and submit it. But you cannot think that it can stand in the House as a valid question.
Honorable Speaker, you see, our problem is that we are actually saving him. We don't even want to tell him in his face.
Honorable Kawama.
He is messing our country, Honorable Speaker. And
Honorable
we are tired
Kawama.
of using proverbs.
Honorable Kawama, I'm not recognizing that as a valid question, and I proceed to allow the
Honorable Speaker.
I'm allowing Honorable Sheikh Imam to ask the next supplementary question.
Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mr. President.
Honorable Speaker.
No, Honorable Carter, I don't know on what you are rising, but otherwise...
Honorable Speaker.
What are you rising on, Honorable Carter?
Honorable Kawama's question is a valid question.
Honorable Carter, please take your seat. You've asked your question, the President has answered.
But he's
we are
asked a valid
proceeding with
question.
supplementary questions, and I don't want to have this engagement with you on the floor.
But Honorable Speaker,
please take
it
a
was
seat,
a valid
Honorable
question.
Carter.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. President, we hear a lot about state capture. Now, what we don't hear about is that just prior to the 1994 elections, many companies in South Africa and from abroad were given contracts for 30 and 40 years. Is this going to be part of that investigation to see whether that was in order? And clearly that was to benefit a few. Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The commission that is going to be established is going to inquire and investigate corruption in the country. There's been too much talk about corruption. Even those who are most corrupt, they point fingers to others that they are corrupt. The truth will be found. If there are people, and there are, who have come to say corruption started long before 1994 on the wealth of the state, on the properties of the state. So those who are calling for it are going to regret. It's going to investigate corruption in the country. As long as the citizens are able to say this is what we would want it to be investigated, that commission, that judicial commission will investigate. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Mabasa.
Honorable President, seeing that you are going to appoint a judicial commission of inquiry, is it necessary now to have other commissions, including a parliamentary commission to conduct an inquiry when the Judicial Commission is competent to execute the inquiry.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As I've just explained when I was answering the question, that there was an investigation done by the public protector and produced a report, state capture report. And that report, I felt there were aspects that were unconstitutional. And I took the report to review. So this matter has been in the hands of the courts. Now, that is what made me not to establish another commission on the same issues, although I wanted to do so. In fact, at one point I thought I would do so, but the legal people said you can't do it because the matter is sub judice. Now, the fact that Parliament, as a different arm of the state, takes a process, I don't know what it means, because it means if I had established a commission, we would have 3 processes. And I don't know which one will be the one that is more legitimate or more important. I don't know. Parliament has its own time to take its own decisions, do whatever it does, but I think it is always important to remember the separation of powers, particularly if the matter is being handled by another arm of the state. I don't know, I'm sure. My impression was that Parliament discussed, logically felt it should do this. I'm not a judge to judge. If Parliament thought this was the best thing to do, it is the Parliament. But from my point of view, I am going to establish a commission of inquiry, and that one, which was in the hands of the protector, will be no longer there. So we'll be dealing with one commission. If we wanted to repeat, have another commission, have another inquiry, that is up to those who do it. It's not my call. Thank you.
Honorable members, we now come to question number 24, asked by the Honorable Kekana of the ANC. The Honorable the President.
Honorable Speaker, investment in infrastructure plays a critical role in economic growth. The increased investment in infrastructure in our country is, in the recent years, has served as an economic boost during the period when the economy was faced with enormous pressures. When the commodity boom turned and mineral demand decreased a few years ago, this directly impacted on a number of mineral exporting countries. In our country, as a result of the additional infrastructure investment, the economy has maintained growth through it was at modest until this year. The economy has maintained growth, though it was at modest levels until this year. Earlier this year, the economy went into a technical recession, but recovered in the last quarter. The direct impact of new infrastructure spend has been considerable. It has been estimated that the multiplier effect has been 250 60 billion rand in the economy, and this is associated with more than 700,000 jobs that are sustained in the economy. Parliament passed the Infrastructure Development Act to establish the Presidential Infrastructure Coordinating Commission, which brings together national, provincial, and local government to coordinate infrastructure development. The establishment of the PICC has yielded positive results and enables us to keep track of infrastructure spending and estimate bottlenecks and eliminate bottlenecks in the implementation of the projects. The new market conditions have led to some state-owned companies reducing their new capital spending. This matter is now receiving attention as we need to ensure that the combination of public and private sector spending on infrastructure is stepped up. Such spending is the equivalent of planting the seeds that will grow the economy. Our unwavering commitment to infrastructure development was strongly demonstrated during the recent medium-term budget policy statement when the Minister of Finance announced that 948 billion rand will be spent on infrastructure over the next 3 years. This will certainly result in further job creation and stimulation of economic growth. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Kekana.
Thank you, Honorable President, for your comprehensive response. Mr. President, in August this year, you launched the Africa Regional Center of the New Development Bank, the BRICS Bank, in Sandton. How do you see this assisting infrastructure development in South Africa and in the region? And do you think that it will help in improving intra-African trade? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, the launch of the BRICS Bank Center in South Africa was an important step, firstly in our country and the continent, and secondly to the global economic activities. The emergence of BRICS as a bank that can focus and more leaning on the need to focus on the developing countries is absolutely a welcomed approach, particularly when you take South Africa as a country with a big economy in the province and which is interacting with the continent of Africa. The understanding between the BRICS Bank leaders and the leaders of the continent is that BRICS Bank is going to play a very critical role in the continent. And therefore, it is going to be helpful in the continent, particularly as a BRICS Bank, which is attempting to have an approach that is user-friendly to countries that is going to be dealing with, to help them if they're in difficulties or if they request assistance to grow, not to do the opposite. We are therefore very happy that the BRICS Bank has been established here, and it is going to do a lot for us as a country, and a bank that is going to come amongst banks here in terms of developmental approach, in terms of economic growth and development, That bank is one of the banks we need. And therefore, we are very happy that it is existing. When we went to BRICS recently, in fact, the entire membership of BRICS were celebrating the launch of the BRICS Center in South Africa and seeing it as a development and a link to African issues. And African countries are very happy that they have an alternative bank that is in the continent now. So it is part of us, in a sense, injecting at the financial level the kind of a bank that is going to help to see us through our ideas of changing the economy for the better. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Maimane.
I agree with you that infrastructure is crucial for economic growth. Except in a recent midterm budget statement, the finance minister came out here and said South Africa could not afford the nuclear deal. The IRP that was tabled indicates the fact that energy demand in South Africa has in fact declined. Yet you seem to be obsessed with tying us into an energy deal. Now, on the same day after the Minister of Finance says we can't afford nuclear, the Minister of Energy goes out in the public and says we are going to be building a nuclear program in South Africa. Which government must we believe? The government of the Minister of Finance or the Minister of Energy? Can you tell us the truth, Mr. Zuma? Is there in fact a nuclear deal, and how exactly are we going to afford it? Because it seems South Africa can't.
Honorable Maimane, clearly that's a very new question and quite a big one.
Madam Speaker, with respect, you allowed the ANC member to put a question about the BRICS Bank, which has absolutely nothing to do with the original question. This question deals with infrastructure around the nuclear build, which is inextricably linked to the original question. Please allow us to do our job and hold the President accountable.
I'll leave it to the President to decide on answering that particular question. Sounds very comprehensive.
We will help the honorable member. Firstly, I'm not obsessed about energy in South Africa. There's a need for energy. As the president of this country, we just come from the load shedding situation, which we had to act in a particular way to stop it. We need energy in South Africa. We are faced with many challenges, including climate change. And South Africa, in the continent of Africa, is the one that needs to reduce emissions more than any other country. So we know what we are doing. We have a policy of mixed energy, which includes nuclear. What the two ministers were talking about, they were not saying we have changed policy. They were talking about how do we implement this particular decision. The Minister of Finance, who handles the purse? It's a question of timing. When do we do it? And this is what the two ministers were talking about. And that needs government to be dealing with it all the time. They were not contradicting. It's a question of when do we start, when and how do we start. We have been discussing that issue all the time in the government, and that's what they were talking about. The minister who deals with the energy itself, you will know, perhaps you have never been in government before, and will never be, even one day. You will know that ministers from their departments come to present to the cabinet what they believe their departments can do, what they think should be done. A discussion in the cabinet will determine. The Minister of Finance will from time to time say, we don't have enough money. There's nothing strange about that. You can't say, if they speak about timing and say they are disagreeing, because we have a policy that is standing, that we are building it, we've been discussing it, we've said we are going to deal with it in a particular manner. And the ministers were commenting on that one. It's as simple as that. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mr. President, yes, indeed, economic growth, infrastructure development, very, very important. At a SADC conference about 2 years ago, Mr. President, there was a motion that was unanimously adopted for infrastructure development from South Africa throughout the SADC countries. Could you perhaps tell us when will we take advantage of this so that we can promote infrastructure development in the interest of economic growth in South Africa? Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Yes, SADC did take that as a program of SADC, not just SADC alone. The AU itself has taken that decision about the industrialization of the continent of Africa as a continent, but SADC took that decision as a region. But we have also taken that decision in the country, as a country. So it is all aligned. What we are doing, we are coordinating what we are doing at all three levels. There are things we do in the country that must look at how do we industrialize our country. And there are things we do at the level of the region. So that is on the go. And I think it's for the first time in our history in the continent that we have projects or objectives that are aligned in the manner in which we have aligned the industrialization of the continent. And these will be talking to one another. And we believe that will lead to intertrade, lead to Africa operating as a region that is able to invest within itself, do trade within itself, and then do trade with other regions of the world. These are advanced decisions that have been taken by the continent, by the region, as well as by the country. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, President. Honorable Sengwa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Msholozi, at the center of rebuilding the economy, which has collapsed at the hands of the ANC, is the need for skills development, innovation and training, particularly amongst young people, so that you can actually jumpstart the economy. Now, key to that is access to institutions of higher learning. And at this point in time, students are faced with uncertainty, and their parents in particular, as to whether they will be able to afford higher education in South Africa in order for them to make a meaningful input into the economy. So the question, Mr. President, in terms of the prioritization of education in the economy is, when will fees fall and when will students find themselves in a position to access education without it being commercialized and without it being a privilege for those that have money and leaving behind the poor, as the inadequacies of NSFAS have excluded people behind.
Point of question.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member. What are you raising on?
I'm raising on a point of order in terms of Rule 92, Honorable Deputy Speaker, that in terms of Rule 142, the Honorable Hlengwa is raising a new question and he knows it. Thank you.
Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Right. No, don't say anything. Mr. President, would you like to respond? It's up to you, Mr. President.
Thank you. We will help the member. Firstly, there is no economy that is collapsing in the hands of the ANC. Since 1994, ANC has grown this economy from billion level to trillion level. That is as clear as anything. I must correct you. If you say this economy that is collapsing in the hands of the, no. it is growing in the hands of the ANC. Just to correct you for record. With regard to the question you are asking, firstly, the report has been given to me by the judge with recommendations. And I've got it to look at it, look at the recommendations. And I'm working on it. Yesterday, I briefed the cabinet on where we are. And very soon, we are going to be answering that question as to what happens in terms of the issue that has been raised by the students in the country. That is going to be done very soon. Thank you very much, my brother, Deputy.
Thank you, President.
Deputy Speaker.
The next question is asked by the Leader of the Opposition, question 25. Mr. President.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, the litigations referred to was not at the instance of the President, but was initiated by the political party. The President has defended it as he is entitled to do so at state expense according to the provisions of the State Attorney Act 56 of 1957. This benefit is extended to all who are employed in the service of the state. Thank you very much.
Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition.
Deputy Speaker, the question says how much? That's the question. I'm not ready for my supplementary. It's not answered. Can we deal with that before I get on to my supplementary?
Do both. Mr. President.
Thank you. I don't know what provokes the answer. I am answering the question because the answer gives an impression that I've been running to courts and spending a lot of money. I'm saying I have been defending what the political party has been doing in terms of taking me to court. And I have spent the money, the government has spent the money.
Deputy Speaker.
Yes.
Deputy Speaker, may I address you in terms of Rule 142 of the rules? Deputy Speaker, we're one of the few countries in the world where the executive are sent the questions so long in advance, 16 calendar days. The President has had this question for 16 calendar days. There's no reason why he should not have come to the House today to give an answer to the question that was on the order paper. If he doesn't know the numbers, surely someone in his department must know the numbers. How on earth are we supposed to hold the President accountable when he shows such contempt for the question that he's had for 16 calendar days?
All right. Honorable members, I've given the President a chance to respond. He's responded. You ask your supplementary question, sir. My role is to request you now to answer I ask the President. You ask your question, sir.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I'm not willing to move on because I don't understand. The President is not answering the question.
Order.
What's the point of this interaction?
Honorable members, order. Honorable Maimani, I have asked the President to respond to you. He gave you a response. I'm not involved. I am not. going to be involved in the quality of the response. So I'm requesting you to ask a supplementary question.
Deputy Speaker.
Honorable Maimani is on his feet, Honorable Steenhuisen. Let's finish with him.
I'm taking a point of order, Deputy Speaker.
No,
Deputy Speaker, it's not your job to protect the executive.
I am not protecting the executive.
It's to protect
you. I have asked the president.
Deputy Speaker,
in your presence.
On a point of order,
Honorable member,
Deputy
honorable
Speaker.
member.
Please
let
let
me
me
finish.
finish.
Let me finish with Honorable Steenhuisen.
Please, may I
Honorable
finish?
Steenhuisen, let's not have a dialogue.
I don't want to dialogue. I want to
Yes,
make a point
yes.
of order, please.
Yes. What's your point of order? You've raised it.
The point of order, Deputy Speaker, is that your job is to ensure that as members of Parliament, we can do our job. It's not to protect the president. How can you sit there in that chair and allow
It's
the
not
fact
my
that
function
the
to
president
accept the
had
question,
a question
the answer.
for 16 calendar days
Honourable-
and arrived in this house today without an answer? That is
Honourable-
not acceptable. It's undermining you, it's undermining this house, and it's undermining our job to hold him
Honourable
accountable,
Steenhuisen.
and it's undermining the Constitution.
Honourable
Please, just for
Steenhuisen.
once, stand up for the Constitution and get him to answer the question.
Your Honorable Steenhuisen, I'm afraid you've got the stick in the wrong side. You ask your supplementary question, Honorable Maimani, and do so on your own, please, quickly.
The supplementary question then must be a repeat of the question. How much has he spent? People all over the country are making allegations.
Honourable
about the
Deputy
president.
Speaker, on a
I
point
want
of
to know
order.
If right here today,
Honourable
how much
Deputy
has-
Speaker, on a point of order.
No,
All right, all right.
This side, Honourable
All right.
Deputy Speaker.
Honorable Maimani,
no,
have you finished?
I have not. He sees this.
Honourable Deputy
Have you
Speaker.
finished? Can I finish? There's a point of order that I'm handling. Can I finish that? I have to finish one point of order before I move to the next one. I can't work on top of one point of order. I will not be able to rule anything. Finish your point
No,
of order.
Deputy Speaker, the question is simple. How much money and is Mr. Zuma willing to pay for it in his own personal capacity? That's the question.
Okay.
It's not that he doesn't know the answer.
All
He
right.
must come here and give us the answer. We demand.
On what rule is he standing?
All right.
He can't get away with
On
it,
what
and
rule
we
is
need
he
answers
answering?
now.
Take your seat.
Honourable Deputy Speaker.
And please be calm. You don't have to beat up tables here. You don't have to. Be calm.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, thank you.
Chief Whip.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, in terms of Rule 92 of point of order, the President has responded to the question the best way he knows how. There is no way that the Honourable Chief Whip of the DA can accuse the presiding officer of defending the executive. That is uncalled for, and they are grandstanding. If the Honourable Maimane does not want to make his follow-up question, then we can move to the next
Money
question.
is the question.
Thanks.
That's all. How much money? We demand to know how much money has the president spent on the legal fees. This is South African people's money.
Honourable
That's the
Maimane.
question.
Honourable
Point of
Maimane.
order, Chair.
Order. Okay. Honourable Maimane. Please do not speak and rise when you are not recognized.
Point of order.
Order.
Speaker.
Order.
Deputy Speaker.
You will lower your voices finally. You will lower your voices. Yes, Honourable Minister, what are you raising on?
Deputy Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. The question that is being asked relates to the decision of the of the prosecuting authority. It does not relate to the litigation. There's no reference in the question to the litigation that ensued between the opposition and the president, and therefore the president has not incurred any cost in relation to the decision of the NPA. If the question specifically alluded to the litigation that ensued, then the honorable leader of the opposition would perfectly be in order to ask for the specific cost incurred. But the question does not talk to the actual litigation that the president got involved in. And that's why the answer is given in the manner that's being answered.
Yes.
Thank you.
Honourable members, Honourable President, if there's anything new you want to say, you may do so. Otherwise, we're going to move to the next supplementary question. Order. Honourable members, I said you will lower your voices. You will Be quiet. Go ahead, Mr. President.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, rise on a point of order.
What's the
sir.
point of order?
Honourable Deputy Speaker, if the Honourable Minister is giving us that answer, why didn't he advise the President to give us the answer? The question is simple. What is the total cost? And we
Honourable,
don't have an answer.
Honourable,
To a written
Honourable
question.
Singh, I asked the President, can you take your seat and listen to the President if he responds to you? Honourable President. Honourable Steenhuisen, I think you're out of order badly too. And you are showing the House the middle finger, not me, by the way. It's the rules that you are showing the middle finger to. I wish you will...
Honourable Deputy Speaker.
You will keep quiet. No, please, hold on. No one is going to speak now, except the President. No one is going to speak now. Mr. President, please go ahead.
Sorry?
Go ahead, Mr. President. If you want to say anything on the matter, please go ahead, as I said.
The question has been asked, I've answered the question. If the honorable member is not satisfied, that is not satisfied, I've answered the question.
Okay.
Deputy Speaker, this is completely unacceptable. He has not answered the question,
Okay.
and I'll say this one thing.
Yes.
He may be in
Honourable
government now,
Maimane, I didn't
but
give you a
he's
chance to
going
speak.
jail.
Honourable-
I can assure you
Honourable
of that
Maimane,
fact.
take
He
your
is
seat.
going to jail.
Take your seat.
The president is going to
You
jail.
will take your seat.
Because he's not answering the question.
Honourable
Honourable
Deputy Speaker,
Tlowama,
on a point of
Please,
order.
let's proceed. Can we proceed, please? Honourable Tlowama, come. Can I, Honourable Chief Whip,
He
can
is
we...
not answering the question.
Honourable, you will not do that. You won't do that. You won't do that. You won't. No. Honourable Tlowama. Honourable Tlowama, take your stand and raise your supplementary question. No, you speak. Go to your mic and speak.
Speaker, you are abusing me. I can't speak when
No,
they do
speak.
like
I gave you a chance to speak. Honourable Tlowama, ask a supplementary
Deputy
question.
Speaker, Deputy Speaker, I rise on a point of order.
What's your point of order?
Rule 92, point of order. This, Deputy Speaker, this Constitution demands of us to hold the executive to account.
Honourable, can I interrupt you?
It's my first.
I will not have a lecture on the Constitution. You have made your point, and that's enough.
I haven't. It's my first point of order today.
You have made your point.
Let me
and
finish.
Honourable, I will not get a lecture on the
Let me
Constitution.
finish.
And this House
Let me
understands the
finish.
Constitution.
And you are also a
Good,
member of
that's
this
very good.
parliament, and it's your responsibility to ensure we hold the executive to account.
Yes, I have done so. I'm doing so.
Now the question at hand states.
Honourable member,
what is
no.
the total amount
Honourable,
in rands
I
of
will
all
switch off your
legal
mic.
costs
I will
incurred?
switch off your mic.
I'll go to another mic.
Yeah, I will switch them off.
I'll go to another mic.
I will switch it off.
I'll go to another mic.
Honourable member.
I'll go to another mic.
You can't do what you are suggesting you do.
Don't bully me. You don't bully him, so don't bully me.
No. I gave the president a chance to respond.
Let me finish.
He's responded to you.
Let me finish.
No.
Let me finish.
No.
Let me finish. Right.
No.
So what
Honourable,
is the total
Honourable
amount in
Waters.
rands for all legal
Honourable
costs
Waters,
incurred
do not do
by
that.
his office? So what is it? What is the total costs in rands?
Honourable-
Yes, Honourable member.
Honourable Deputy Speaker.
And you will not
Honourable
insist that the
Deputy Speaker,
President
I'm
answers
rising
a
on a
simple
point of order.
question. You are
Rule
failing in your
7.8.
duty, sir,
Marcus
and an
Lamar.
embarrassment to this Constitution and this Parliament. And I
Marcus
hope you're very
Lamar.
proud of yourself.
No. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I'm rising on Rule 78.3B.
Absolutely useless and embarrassing.
78.3B. Honorable Mike
Truth is
Waters is undermining the authority of the presiding officer.
The speaker is undermining the authority. The speaker is undermining the authority.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, we cannot sit here and be insulted by the racists sitting that side. You are racist, Nina.
You're undermining this parliament through your rank and competence.
Honorable members.
You, sir, are undermining the Constitution.
Honorable member.
And you, sir, as well, by not answering the question.
Bend the South African flag.
Let's give Honorable Kawama a chance to ask a supplementary.
He's not answering the question.
We've given you a chance.
You are useless. This has gone too far. We cannot allow the DA to hijack our sitting. We can't allow that.
I refuse to sit here and
we cannot, Deputy.
Honorable Kawama, take your seat. Speak. Honorable Kawama, take your seat. Ask your supplementary question, sir. No, you're not recognized. I'm afraid I'm not recognizing you. Go ahead, Honorable Kawama.
I refuse to sit down.
Deputy Speaker, you don't recognize the Constitution. We don't recognize you.
Speaker, can I make a request? We will not be.
Order, honorable members. Honorable Kawama, you want to proceed with your question? Honorable members, let's proceed with the business of the House.
Thank you.
Order. No.
Point of order.
Honorable members, can we proceed with the work of the purpose of this meeting? No.
Honorable
Go ahead, honorable member.
Honorable GP. That's what.
What's the point of order now, honorable members?
Thanks, Deputy Speaker, for your indulgence. I rise with respect to Rule 78, read with Rule 87. With respect to 78, subsection 3 and subsection B, the conduct of the DA members, especially the leader of the opposition and the chief whip of the DA, especially around the undermining of the authority of the presiding officer, that this matter must be referred to the relevant authority. Number 2, with respect to Rule 87, in terms of the reflection upon the House and its proceedings and decision, especially the members I referred to that actually have acted in a disrespectful manner upon the House and nearly bring it into a standstill. The last one, Chair, another member of the DA, probably Hansard, will assist you. In terms of the rules, I'll refer to Rule 82, subsection 3. where this member was referring that the president is going to be arrested and the insult that they've made. No member may impugn on the dignity of any member that may be used here. I'm rising not to disrespect you, but the conduct warrants an action in terms of the 3 subsections of the rules that I've raised. I thank you.
Thank you. We will do that. We'll consider that and follow it up. I was going to follow it up in my closing remarks. Honorable Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Speaker. No, we will support the matter being referred, but we will also support the issue of the executive not answering simple written down questions, although they were sent to them well in advance. How much does it cost? Full stop. We must take that as well to a rules committee or a subcommittee of the rules. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Tlowama, proceed. Or we'll talk on this matter.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. But before I proceed...
Sorry, point of order, Deputy Speaker.
Yes, what's the point of order?
The person who had raised in terms of the principle, who had raised the question, had subsequently left, and therefore, if Honorable Tlowama is rising on a follow-up question, we may no longer take, in terms of the rules, the follow-up question on that issue.
No.
On that question.
No.
Absolutely, Deputy.
No. It can't be correct. Honorable members, no. It's no longer we have already started. So we can't deprive the members who are left from asking supplementary questions, including your own members who have pressed the button to ask. Whether he's here or not does not take it away from the House. It's now a question of the House. Yeah, we would have to agree as the House and yourselves in your whippery that question is withdrawn. It has not been withdrawn. Their actions does not invalidate that. Proceed, Honorable Tlowama.
Thank you very much. Honorable Deputy Speaker, I know that the President might be struggling with mathematics, but in principle, Deputy Speaker, is that we are paying for an avalanche of scandals of the President. What I want to say, Honorable Deputy Speaker, is that why can't the President save us and face and allow this case to go to court so that he can clear himself? It doesn't help for him to keep on defending because he's leading this nation without a moral high ground. And what I want to emphasize also, Honorable Deputy Speaker, is that the President cannot lead or defend this nation without integrity. He must be held accountable by its laws. It is a dangerous hallucination.
Honorable Member, your time has expired.
Thank you.
Deputy Speaker.
Yes.
On a point of order.
Yes, what's your point of order, ma'am?
I rise on Rule 85. Earlier, Honorable Hadebe made mention of this rule when he was calling order for what Honorable Tlowama has said. He keeps on repeating and violating this rule. I do not know how long does it take or how many times should it be knocked into his head that he should not violate this rule.
Okay.
Deputy Speaker, on a point of order. On a point of order.
Yes, what's the point of order?
Honorable Deputy Speaker, we are in this situation because of the President. If the President was not incompetent and dishonest, things will not go this low.
Honorable Tlowama, please, man. Honorable Tlowama, take that mic. Take that mic. All that is being said is that whatever you feel or think about the President, there are rules in the House which requires of us, because he is one of us when he is in the House, that we obey those rules. It's not a comment on the validity or otherwise of your remarks. It's about the rules that you, as a member of this House, have approved. So when it is said that you must not impute motives on any one of us in the House, you must comply with that rule. This is what the request is about. So don't give the impression that you are being silenced or anybody is preventing you from expressing your opinions. The Constitution itself says this House is only constrained by itself, the Constitution, and or by the rules that we as the House put together. We've put those rules. They are in line with the Constitution. So if you disobey them, you are disobeying the Constitution that you say you adhere to. So comply with the requirements.
Deputy Speaker.
All the honorable members, you can't be shouting down his throat. He can't respond to you.
That's what they know best. Let them
No.
shout. Deputy Speaker, if you look, I always comply with the rules of this House. He doesn't even know what is he talking about. What I'm trying to say to you, Deputy Speaker, is that it is becoming lawful to undermine this president. Because this president does not even respect
Honorable
the Constitution.
Tawama,
You want to
Honorable
apply
Tawama,
to protect
Honorable
him.
Tawama, you are out of order. Honorable President, I don't even know whether there was a question in what he said.
Sorry?
I don't know whether there was a question there. You can comment if you want to.
No, I never had any question.
Okay, all right, thank you. Let's move to the next The next person is Honorable Pilar de Majake. You're on the list. That's the last supplementary question.
Thank you, the Deputy Speaker, and thanks, Your Excellency, for answering the question. The state legal representation policy is meant to provide legal representation to the executive and judiciary to afford them legal representation if accused in the course of performance of their duties. Do you agree that in a society of oppressors, allegations are never accompanied by legal representation to allow the truth to prevail, endorsing the principle of innocent till proven guilty? Is it not the opposition that wastes money perpetually by litigating on all decisions of parliament? And now they're crying foul to say that money is being wasted without taking into consideration that half the time is themselves who run to courts trying to run this country using the courts.
Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. That is precisely the reason why I've answered the question the way I've done. Because if political parties can't debate in parliament, they go to court all the time, causing, therefore, that those who are in the state must defend themselves. And they must come and ask, how much have you spent? And that's why I answered the question the way I did. Because there is no reason why we should be going to court. This is democracy. If there is an issue, it must be raised here, discussed, etc. So the political party knows what it is doing, and I can't do what the political parties are wanting to do. For an example, the manner in which I've answered the question, I've said the litigations referred to was not at the instance of the president. Because if that was the case, you would have said, you are wasting money, President. You are paying, we are going to court all the time. But it's not true. The president has been defending himself. As a president or any other person that is employed by government, you have the state to pay your expenses. And the state, when it pays your expenses, does not come to you and say, Mr. President, this is so much we are paying now. It doesn't. They pay. You don't know how much they pay. Why should I know it? Because I don't keep any record, don't have anything. This is kind of arising from people changing political matters into legal matters. So that's, in my view, I have answered, including saying it is at the expense of the state. And the state has the records. I think the Minister of Justice was absolutely correct. If anyone was interested to know, you wouldn't be asking a question. You would know exactly where to ask your question. So I find it being a political game being played at a legal level. And that's why I answered the question the way I did. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is asked by Honorable Mapulani to the President. That's the
But
last
Deputy
question.
Speaker, on a point of order, I
Yes, sir.
mean not to interrupt the question session, but I do believe that there is a slot left in that previous question. There was the supplementary question by Honorable Maimane, and then there was Honorable Luama, and then there was Honorable Machado,
Majek.
which means that. Whoa.
Wait, Honorable.
So I would like that the last one, please, Honorable Deputy. So if I go about 4.
No, it's correct.
Correct.
Yeah. No, Honorable Honorable Mkuleko Hlengwa is correct, members. And I apologize for that, President, to us to move fast, yes. It's not him, it's someone else there, yes. Go ahead. I said he's correct in his observation. But I don't have the names here. Who's the name? Is it Hlengwa? Okay, yes. Okay, it is Honorable Hlengwa. Your fortunes are out today.
Honorable Mr. President, let us assume in the unlikely event that I was prepared to help the president. Can I help the president in this way? So you say it's political parties who are taking you to court. How much then is it costing you to defend yourself against political parties? Notwithstanding whatever reasons that you cite, whether it is the conversion of political matters to legal matters, but that's the question, because the nub of the issue is whether it's you or whether it's political parties. I think it is fair for citizens to be told how much it is that this legal action is costing the taxpayer. Honorable Deputy Speaker, the biggest challenge here, which Parliament must look at, the absence of a standing committee into the presidency to look into its affairs on a day-to-day basis like all other departments will land us in this mess. So let us also as Parliament apply our minds in terms of how we look at the finances. of the
Honorable
Honorable
Hlengwa,
Deputy
your time is expired.
On a point
and-
of order, Manje. No. Honorable Deputy Speaker, we cannot, in fairness, it's in fairness, then members there have the nerve, cheek, and audacity to say we are speaking nonsense.
No.
No. Those bakhuluma lokho.
No, honorable.
The one
Hlengwa.
responding first.
No, honorable members, please order, man, order. I've been saying that you can't be screaming, and you know that it's offensive to be throwing language like that around. Honorable President?
On a point of order, Deputy Speaker.
Yes, what's the point of order, sir?
The question that the Honorable Hlengwa is asking is a new question. Now, the state attorney holds the records of the cost of litigation of all of government. If he wants to bring the question, certainly I would be more than happy to answer it, having collected that information from the state attorney. The question is about litigation costs, which was the point I was arising on earlier, which is different from the question on the record, because the question on the record does not refer to litigation costs, and that is the point. So this is a new question. It's about the litigation costs. We can provide that information in respect of any minister, any member of cabinet, any government department, because that's handled, all litigation is handled by the state attorney's office. Thank you.
Honorable President, would you like to help a member?
Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Wait, Honorable,
All right, okay.
Honorable Singh, please take your seat. The President is here.
No, I think I have answered the question. I've even explained. The minister is absolutely correct. I don't keep the records of the state on litigations against government. If somebody asks that question, and that's why I said when the member was here, it must have been provoked by something I don't know, to ask me the question that he knows very well. It's not my responsibility to pay the litigations that are brought by political parties. It's not. And the minister is helping. That's where you will get the records. Why ask me, political? Because you want just to ask the question from the president. Because you must abuse the president when he's here. That's the issue. That's why I'm answering the question the way I did. And I'll stick to that.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next question, as I said, As I said,
Honorable Deputy Speaker, on a point of order.
yes,
The Honorable President knows very well, Msholozi, knows very well that I, for one, despite political differences, respect him. And so I think that the rule has been cited, 85, about casting aspersions on other members, must, with all due respect, apply to him. He can't tell the House that we're coming here to abuse him. Simbuza kahlumbuza. That's casting aspersions. I'm not in that game. I'm not in that game.
honorable members, let's proceed. Honorable President, we will
No.
proceed.
If the member is not in that game, why ask me the question when even the minister is helping him? Where he will get the information if he's interested in the information. Why?
All right. The next question is by Honorable Mapulani to the President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. There is scientific evidence that the African continent will continue to become warmer and at a rate somewhat higher than the 0.15 degree Celsius per decade. That has been observed to date. The science also indicates that future climate will include an increase in the frequency and severity of extreme weather events. As a responsible global citizen, South Africa ratified the United Nations Framework Convention on Combating Climate Change in August 1997, and since then, we have been working jointly with other nations of the world to address the global climate challenge. Our initial climate change plan of action, published in 2004, was based on intensive consultation with communities, civil society, and business. Based on lessons learned in implementing these efforts, we conducted a long-term mitigation scenario study, which informed our pre-2020 commitment that I announced at the Copenhagen Climate Change Conference of the parties. We committed to a 34% deviation from a business as usual greenhouse gas emission trajectory by 2020. We are making great strides in addressing both the causes and impacts of climate change in all its dimensions, namely social, economic, and environmental. Our effort to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions are across all sectors and spheres of government. For an example, we have developed improved public transport systems in our metros, such as Rea Vaya, Arieng, and the Gautrain. Our building standards have been upgraded to international energy efficiency standards. The Green Building Council has certified a large number of energy efficient and water-wise buildings. Our renewable energy program is among the largest globally. Our provinces and cities have developed and are implementing intensive climate change strategies and action plans. We have developed a climate change response policy with a greenhouse gas emission reduction system framework, which was approved by the Cabinet in 2015. The first phase of the system includes the allocation of carbon budgets to companies, setting desired emission reduction objectives, and the development of the pollution prevention plan regulations in respect of greenhouse gases. In order to implement our post-2020 action under the Paris Agreement, we have developed the draft bill on climate change, where we will ensure that from 2021, mandatory carbon budgets will be implemented in combination with a carbon tax. We are developing a national climate change adaptation strategy, which outlines the National Climate Change Adaptation Action and guides on our ongoing and future climate change adaptation efforts. The strategy aims to encourage energy in climate change adaptation efforts at the national, provincial, and local level to address slow onset climate change, and further to ensure that climate change is considered in disaster management planning by the national and provincial disaster management centers. As part of this effort, the Department of Environmental Affairs is working with the South African Weather Service to develop a national framework on climate services to improve the dissemination of early warnings to society at large. I thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, President. Honorable Mapulani.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker, and thank you to the President. Honorable President, on Monday, the United Nations released a shocking report on climate change in its greenhouse gas bulletin, which revealed that the levels of CO2 emissions grew at a record rate in 2016 to levels not seen before in million years, potentially fueling a 20-meter rise in sea levels and adding to 3 degrees Celsius to global temperatures. Now, in view of this report, Honorable President, would you support urgent steps to be taken to introduce the bill that we have referred to that has been developed on climate change, so that we as a country are able to determine binding emissions target, so that we are able to reach the peak plateau and decline emission trajectory that our country has developed. In addition to that, Honorable President, would you comment on the program on renewables, which seem to be uncertainty around? As you know, that renewable energy program is one of the programs that will help us to reduce our carbon footprint. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Certainly, the report from the UN, I'm sure it is, in a sense, encouraging us to do everything we can that has been agreed globally as to what we need to do to mitigate the situation of the rising either sea or whatever. It's absolutely important for us to take that report and look at our situations, particularly because our country does play a particular role either in the emissions or in what we need to do to mitigate. If we have such a report, we must then ask the question, what else do we need to do in order that we are able to do extraordinary things if the rise of the sea has even moved beyond the speculations done by the scientists. They did not know. It was surprising, very high. It means anything can happen without us noticing. Now, solutions have been discussed and agreed upon. And I think the final agreement in Paris was very important for the globe. So I think the question is, what then can we do? What is our reaction to the kind of behavior of the climate that we did not even speculate about? What can we do? I think the kind of things that have happened to our own country, for an example, the droughts that have come, the floods that have come, what do we say? Of course, it is not the question of one country. It is a question of all countries in the world. And there are things that have been done or talked about and agreed. What do we need to do? I think that's what we need to be saying. What else can we do? Talking about energy, our country has made some contribution towards emission. And when we're discussing, developing countries have been given some allowance to utilize some of the things that, in a sense, contribute towards the climate change behavior that is not necessarily normal. And that's why in Copenhagen in particular, as a country, we committed ourselves like any on mixed energy, particularly renewable energy. And it was with an understanding that as we develop the renewables, we are going to be finding ways and means of steadily reducing those that produce emissions that cause the problems. And that's what we need to talk about. And therefore, our point is that we should continue to do so. We need, for an example, the kind of renewable that is more reliable, that will help us to address the matter and reduce what else that could be causing emissions. That's what we need to be arguing about, rather than arguing about we cannot have this, when in fact it will play an important role in terms of making the renewable energies take over the kind of energy distribution or production. So that is the kind of debate that we need to be having as a country, as well as with other countries. If people, you know, for an example, the United States did not look at much as it was part of the decision that was taken in Paris, but thereafter, when there was a change of administration, there was a view that you can't continue with that kind of agreement. But what the climate change has done this year has been attacking the US in almost all the states, not all the states, in some of the states, showing those who have a view that this is very far away, that in fact it has arrived. So it then says to all of us, we need to quicken the implementation of our agreements. That's what we need to do. It means we as a country, we need to be more conscious of the fact that we stand in an area where a lot of climate change is going to be demonstrated on our shores, as we have seen it happening. So in a sense, this is encouraging us to say, what else can we do extraordinarily in order to try to prevent what could happen into our country? So the matter is serious. If there is such an article emerging that this has in fact gone beyond the expectations of scientists. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Speaker. Yeah. Honorable Esther Hazen.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Mr. President, with the economic and social consequences of climate change physically affecting trade and have an impact on the economy, mostly through greenhouse gas emissions from carbon dioxide, you said we are making an impact, but South Africa is currently 45% higher than global averages. We are the largest greenhouse gas emitter in Africa. So we're not really making an impact. You said in the State of the Nation address, we are committed to renewable energy, but it's not really happening. Agriculture production is failing, consumption by the people are failing, the health of the people are failing, but we're not really emitting to renewable energy. Thank you.
Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. We are actually doing something. It's not true that we are not doing anything. The rate of it, we might have comments to make, but to say we seem to be doing nothing is not true. We are. According to, and this has been part of what kind of capacity do we have? And that is why, globally, developed countries have agreed to play a role in the developing countries to help them meet the challenges that are coming. And even the US, in the last G20 meeting, they came back to say, even if they don't support that decision, but they are going to help the developing countries, because the developing countries need to be helped. And South Africa is part of the developing countries. And we are doing what we can do. I don't think you could jump and do more than what you can do. We are doing what we can do. That's what we are doing. I'm sorry, that's what we are doing, and I don't think we can blame ourselves that we are slow, etc. We have to do what we can in the process. That's why I'm saying if we all agree, if we all do what we are all supposed to do, we could. Perhaps that's why I'm saying deliberately we must do extraordinary things in order to mitigate what is happening to us. And I've said South Africa plays a role that is more visible. In terms of emissions, it must also play the role which is visible towards mitigating. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Kubisa.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And it's quite frankly, Ngamalala, the recent disasters in our country, and especially in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal, have taught us to be alert. And you have just alluded to the strides that the country has taken by way of participating within the structures of UN, AU, SADC, etc. And on the basis of that, Your Excellency, we have seen some minor earthquakes in our country as well, although it has been seen a lot in the US and other countries. Therefore, it means that we have to go an extra mile to ensure that our country is safe. Now, Your Excellency, would you and the government you are leading be in support of ensuring that climate change impact assessment become a prerequisite for granting an environmental authorization to proceed with future developments? Thank you.
President.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I think we have been doing that. Looking, environment, I think in our country, is one sector that is quite sensitive when people are doing things, and we've been doing so. What it would mean, given what is happening, I'm sure those scientists that are doing research would have to help us. What can we do? Can we do more of that assessment? Will it do anything to what is happening? Because what is happening is the level at which has been reached, which is going to be continuing, which will only be reduced by us behaving in a particular way. And it is not the question of one country only. It's a combination of countries to be able to bring down the levels. So perhaps this is going to say, in the debates that we have within the country, in the region and continent, as well as globally, the debate must be accelerated given the acceleration of the climate change. I think that's what we may be doing. Whatever we do, whatever you are capable of doing, let us do it. And that's why, as you have said, I was saying let us do extraordinary things in order to ensure that we are able to know exactly what's happening. If the assessment, if those who are doing the assessment can in fact suggest what else do we need to do, those are the things we need to follow. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, that brings to the end. There are 3 slots that have been taken. Honourable Sheikh, would you like to take yours? Yes. No, he's lucky, he's amongst the last ones and here. So since there's no other political party and so on, the NFP Ishaisi.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Mr. President, whilst we acknowledge, agree and understand that global warming is having a devastating effect worldwide. Now, just in our neighborhood, and I'm talking particularly about the area in Iteguini, which is Meerwent, Wentworth, Lamontville, Jacobs, the Bluff area, emissions are very, very high, extremely high because of the industries. Over and above the challenges we have in terms of global warming, we have a health hazard. And you would find that the cases of cancer, lung infections, tuberculosis is extremely high in that area. What is government willing to do to some kind of research into that area? Come up with some statistics and see what we could do about it to try and prevent this in the interest of our people and the country. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. While I don't have the statistics right now in those areas in particular, I know that in the past, there used to be very specific assessment in those areas, particularly Wentworth, because of the, because of the refinery there. So, and those areas are areas where there are factories, and therefore automatically there must be high kind of effects of what happened. But I don't have the figures right now, but it means those are the matters that people like members of parliament ought to alert government to say these are matters, we come from here, and also talk about them here so that the people are sensitized. That area, particularly Wentworth, I think is the one that has been leading because of the proximity to the factory that is producing kind of things. So what do you do? I think we need as government to focus on those kind of areas, to say what can we do extra. At one point there was a feeling that perhaps the Wentworth people should move away from close to the refinery. Is it possible? Instead, there are more residential areas there than reducing them. Should we move the refinery itself away from there? I think those are matters that government ought to discuss, to say what then do we do? But also to say what else do we do in terms of the emissions? Should we find ways and means of reducing the emissions? That's what I think we need to talk about. And I'm sure, as you raise the issue here, scientists and other people should pay attention, and government should pay attention as well. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Mr. President, I will not find fault of you for not mentioning Lamontville, but that one will talk outside of the House. Honorable members.
Well, Lamontville. will also be taken into account.
Honorable members, that brings us to the, let me see, there's one outstanding matter of a supplementary question that the speaker described as separate in Honorable Carter's thing about a question about the information she required that she says she asked for. And the office will facilitate that she gets that answer. So the issue was that we should facilitate that she gets that. She will do that. That brings us to the end of the day. Thank you very much.